Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all well. Bit of a weird one. I like the weird ones, so here we go. But a bit of a weird one. I wasn't really aware of this, to be honest, or if I was, very very briefly in history, like maybe heard it mentioned and didn't know what it was. But I don't think I'd ever heard of this, to be honest. So, we're on British cryptids. The Cumbrian Dregpike is the name of the video. The channel is British Cryptids. 1974 in brackets, maybe that's the age of the guy. 6 years older than me. 8,000 subscribers. The Cumbrian Dregpike, oh, Dregpike, is the name of the video. Now, it's fucking a lot bit mental, this, as I've already said. It's just a lot bit fucking mental. It's some sort of fish abomination that kidnaps and kills people. It's madness in the Lake District here. A serial killing cryptid. Again, literally never heard of this, to my knowledge. Never heard of this. Yeah, but like documented records of people being murdered by some sort of fish. It's the Dregpike. The Dregpike by all accounts. So, yeah, some madness. Let's have a listen to this. You can tell it's old. You can tell it's old. Hold on. Loud didst the innocent maid then scream, for on her the foul Dregpike fell, and fast she was sunk neath the stream, as both were delivered to hell. Cumbrian Lake Tales, Cumberland, sorry, Cumbria, Cumberland, same thing, they changed the name. Cumberland Lake Tales attributed to William Wordsworth, 1812. So there we go.
British fishermen have long been known to exaggerate the size of the one that got away.
It's like spooky fucking ancient fucking zombie apocalypse music. Hold on, I've got my PS5 on here. It'll cause problems later down the line, so let's get rid of that. Right, here we go. The fucking Cumbrian Dregpike.
In fact, some stretches of water in these isles have produced consistent.
Right, hold on. Measuring 39 inches in length and 19 inches in a male pike. So I think this is just people catching big fish in the Lake District area.
Reports of abnormally large fish dating back centuries. But despite innumerable accounts over hundreds of years, there is at least one freshwater creature that has so far eluded scientific discovery. If reports are to be believed, it has claimed dozens of lives in England's Lake District.
Dozens of lives. So, as well, like, again, giant fish, big fish, talking of like animals used to be bigger back in the day, in the history. Again, kind of prove it as well. There's not this big giant crack about pikes now that I know about, but I'm not a fisherman, so I may be wrong. But yeah, so apparently the dread pike, a pike by all accounts, but a slightly different pike. It's a dreg pike. Has murdered multiple people in the Cumbrian Lake District in history. It's not a thing now I'm aware of now. I mean, we've either vanquished the dreg pike or it died of old age or something. Who knows? But this is the tale.
Resembling a gigantic pike, but possessing a horse's mane and hind legs, it goes by many names. Viking settlers called it the Sloydgadder, but in Cumbrian dialect, it is known as the Dregpike.
Dun, dun, dun.
The Lake District. Designated as a national park in 1951, the area extends across the counties of Cumberland and Westmoreland, covering 900 square miles. There are 92 bodies of water, 16 of which are considered true lakes. This hauntingly beautiful landscape was carved out during the last ice age, over 20,000 years ago.
Yeah, that's debatable. We all know history's a load of shit here. We fucking apparently the ice age was 12,000 years ago, and fucking the Hunger Dryas it all melted. Was that not the crack? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, do we know? Do we know? Because these people just fucking lie to us, don't they? So that's the other side of it. We get lied to quite a lot on quite a lot, so we don't know where we are here. So anyway, this is Cumbria, the Lake District. That's none of this is the Lake District, which is mentioned. This is all Manchester and Liverpool, so that's slightly wrong. The Lake District is this area here, not to the right. Yeah, that's Cumbria. I'm just outside of the Lake District, even on the map. We live in the suburbs, the Ship Pike. We live in the Ship Pike, so we don't get the dreaded Dregpike. It's not in our region, you know what I mean? That's the other side of it. Maybe it's well known in the actual Cumbrian towns, the Lake District towns. We're on the outskirts, as I say, in the Shipburg here.
When the glaciers retreated, remnant survivors of many species became isolated in the deep ravines. One of these relics is the Vendace, Britain's rarest fish, found only in 2 stretches of water in the Lake District. The common pike is widespread across the northern hemisphere. Once prized in culinary circles, it is perhaps equal only to salmon and trout among competitive fishermen. Records of large freshwater fish caught in Britain date back 1,000 years. Isaac Walton wrote The Complete Angler in 1653 and describes several encounters with monster pike and catfish. But it is an earlier work that has what is thought to be the first printed reference to the Cumbrian Dregpike. A treatise on fishing with an angle, written in 1496 by Dame Juliana Berners, contains a curious list of deaths caused by fish. The Dregpike is held responsible for the loss of 34 men, 10 women, and 16 children. Pioneering travel writer Celia Fiennes rode through the Lake District in the 1680s and describes people in Cumberland being taken by a terrible water beast resembling a giant, hairy pike with the hindquarters of a horse.
I mean, what a magnificent beast this must be. Do you know what I mean? A massive pike with horse legs and a tail, apparently. That literally comes out of the water and drags you under. I mean, what a sight they sort of be. I mean, what a shit show history must have been, do you know what I mean? Fuck me, fucking monsters and dragons and all this kind of shit was going down by the looks of it. And, yeah, the Dregpike. The Dregpike, half fish, half horse, dragging people to their doom in the Cumbrian lakes here. I mean, what the fuck's going on? Do you know what I mean? I've never heard of this, I swear to God. I seen this video yesterday, the Cumbrian Dregpike. I thought, what the hell's this? So we'll have a listen. You listen to about all these cryptids in America and like Bigfoot and you know what I mean, all these things and some of it interesting, some of it very interesting. But you have a listen and you don't think there's going to be anything close to home, and lo and behold, here we are in history, documented history apparently. The dreaded Dregpike of Cumbria here, and I don't know if anybody in today's society in Cumbria will have heard. Well, somebody clearly has, because somebody's made a video of it. But it's not common knowledge to me. It's not common knowledge. I don't know. I'm going to ask about if anyone's heard of the Dregpike, like half horse, half pike, drags you to your doom in the Cumbrian lakes. I mean, we don't have murders that much unless it's covered up. Unless it's covered up of the Dregpike. I don't know. It's just madness, isn't it? It's very much madness, indeed.
A counting book from 1724 describes the loss of a farm horse, attacked while crossing a ford in the village of Bassenthwaite. 3 farm labourers were unable to stop a large fish-like animal from dragging the horse into deeper water, where they both disappeared from view. The witnesses had no...
I mean, it's got to be some size and have some power if it's dragging a fucking horse down here, you know what I mean? Humans have got no chance from the Dregpike, the dreaded Dregpike.
hesitation in signing a sworn statement that a Dregpike had been responsible. A far more serious incident occurred in 1751, when sheep were viciously attacked at Halfpenny Ford near Kendal. Joseph Buxton tried to save his flock by attempting to hit what he thought was a large fish with his shepherd's crook. But 2 boys then saw the creature emerge from the water on horses' legs. The boys said it was as long as 3 men. The animal took Buxton in its jaws and violently shook him, before dropping the man and swimming off with one of the sheep in its mouth. The boys ran for help, but Buxton would later die of his injuries.
It's another victim of the Dregpike. Another victim of the Dregpike. So, yeah, it's fucking madness, isn't it? A massive pike with horse's legs and a tail, apparently, that drags people and animals. A horse, fucking horses aren't weak. Sheep gone, man died of his wounds. I mean, these are actual accounts. Apparently, again, I'm completely unaware of this. This is the second time I've seen this video. The first time I watched it and thought I'm gonna have to make a video on this. Yeah, I didn't even get this far. I didn't even get this far through the Dregpike video, to be honest, because I thought I'll have to make a video on this. Fuck me, what's going on here? Um, yeah, it's madness, but. I mean, history's a fucking shitstorm in many ways. Like, apparently there was beasts of, like, fantastical beasts back in the day as well. Like, I don't know about the Dregpike, but do you know what I mean? Like, there was animals. Again, there is the crack possibly that dinosaurs roamed the same time as man, and the man drew them, and etc. So a global flood that wiped out everything, and because a lot of things were abominations. This is also a crack that the Nephilim and the Watchers were creating abominations. Could this have been one of the abominations? But you find it very hard to believe how you can weld a fish to a horse. Do you know what I mean? That's where I'm struggling here. How are you welding a fish to a horse here? And it's not like these animals have been stitched together like a Frankenstein creature here. No, it's like it's been born that way is kind of the narrative here. So how are you getting a horse and a fish to do it? You know what I mean? Like, but again, there is this tale of like people creating abominations. How that was done. Again, you could think of like scientifically in like labs, don't you? About sort of cloning, etc., like that. You think of like labs, but then you think back to these times, and there weren't being labs. So like, what the fuck was going on? How's that explained? Which it isn't really. That's the other side of it. I don't know the answer to that, but apparently they were creating abomination creatures. But how was that being done exactly? Um, so could such creatures, again, cryptids, things like this, Bigfoot, that again, these are all everyone's heard of Bigfoot. Do you know what I mean? That's probably the most famous one. But there's many others. Like in America, I've watched many videos of cryptids, of weird shadowy creatures and all sorts, all different shapes and forms. To be honest, Bigfoot's just probably the most well known. Um, so we've got a new one here, or a new one to me, the Cumbrian Dregpike, half fish, half horse, dragging people to the doom in history here. But it's not like, again, I've never heard of this, so it's not like a thing now. Do you know what I mean? So, what, like, people in history stupid? You know what I mean? That's the question. The one of the next questions you've got to ask. Were these people stupid, and did they not know what they were seeing? And apparently, these people, multiple people, have reported seeing a half pike, half horse that drags people to the doom, and 34 people, was it back there, had been attested to have died by the Cumbrian Dregpike. So it's fucking madness, honest to God. Like, I don't know, madness.
Published in 1792, A Fortnight's Ramble to the Lakes was one of the very first traveller's guides. The anonymous author describes being woken one night by a fiddle player whose instrument made a very strange sound. The explanation given was that the musician's bow was strung with hair from the mane of a dregpike. The noise it produced was said to make birds fall silent and dogs cower. Curiously, in Finnish mythology, demigod Väinämöinen created a magical harp out of the jawbone of a giant pike. A little further north, we find Scottish lochs, said to be home to the Kelpie, a mythological water horse that can take the shape of a beautiful woman. In Wales, these same horse spirits are known as Ceffyl.
Right, so again, the spirits here, we're on to spirits now. It's, I mean, it gets real fucked up when you start talking about shit like this. And I don't personally know if any. I've never seen anything like this. I don't know if any of it's true. To be honest, you kind of sit on the fence if it isn't because you've never seen any of it. And but it a lot feels like history was. Again, I've mentioned in other videos, like it's more fun. It was like fantastical back then in many ways. Again, we've got talk of giants for a start, but the many other things were going on back then. Possibly the dinosaurs were around at the same time and didn't die millions of years ago. There's quite a lot of evidence for that. To be honest, humans drew and created sculptures and toys or idols of dinosaurs, many different ones, and it's kind of like, well, we know history is a bit of a lie, and again, it's been proved that things can fossilize quite quickly. It doesn't take millions of years, and the layering used to decipher how old something is, well, again, that's not taking into a global consideration, a global flood, and a lot of debris being deposited all over the world, burying everything. Obviously, you're going to have to dig up stuff, so there is a bit of backing that the dinosaurs were here with man and died out in the flood. But dinosaurs are dinosaurs, dogs are dogs, cats are cats, humans are humans. But pikes and horses crossbreeding here is madness in many ways. So, I mean, you've got tales of like the Loch Ness Monster, but people think that's just like a dinosaur. I can't remember the name of the dinosaur now. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember the name of it. Um, yeah, that so. But tales of old of creatures, sort of Bigfoot as well, I suppose. But all these, and the world just seemed to be a slightly more fantastical place back in the day. But then you go back to the original question: just were these people stupid, and did they not know what they were seeing? And like you kind of think then that's a bit mad. Like multiple people didn't know what they were seeing. But multiple people are saying they've seen a pike, half horse here that drags people to the doom. So it's just fucking madness. It really is. Let's hear a bit more.
Who tempt weary travellers to mount them before riding off into the sky, never to be seen again. In Icelandic folklore, the lochpike or vatnageda is described as an extremely poisonous, furry flounder, requiring an angler to bait his hook with gold and wear gloves made of human skin if he wished to catch one. But while these apparitions are mythic in nature, the Cumbrian Dregpike seems to be only too real, much like the Lancashire perchman or the Souter seawolf. The fossil record.
The Souter Seawolf for the Yorkshire something. I think I've missed that. So more tales of dreaded sort of beasts that roam roamed the wilds. But then again, this is why the flood might not have been as long ago as we possibly think. And again, it sort of showed you there a depiction of a flood and then the water coming down and leaving things in lakes in Cumbria or anywhere, to be honest, the lochs of Scotland or any lakes at all. As the water sort of went down, it left the water in the lakes, and that sometimes maybe left some of the beings there of sorts. And there was again talk that there is talk of the Watchers or the Nephilim creating abominations, animals, and some say that maybe even some of the dinosaurs, Tyrannosaurus Rex, etc., were creatures created by the Nephilim or the Watchers, and they were abominations, and again, hence why they didn't survive the flood. So there was maybe other things out there that were terrorized, like the things that were created to terrorize and guard things, and we usually there weren't sort of herbivore animals eating grass. They were usually carnivores, and it's used as either weapons or as to guard things. To guard things was a general crack that was said. So could this have been as something similar? I don't know, but there is sort of it could have got left in a lake as a flood come down. There is kind of again it showed you that there. We're mentioning a flood. Before the flood there was abominations. The ones that survived obviously would have been better water based. Again, we talk of a Tyrannosaurus Rex there. It's not surviving a flood. So anything water based could survive, and is this a possibility? Again, I don't know. It's very much madness in many ways, but it seems to me that we were born into a world of madness of it's fantastical and madness and gods and fucking all sorts and magic if you go back enough and all this sorts of shit, and it's all just kind of being covered up now, and it's all like we'll just pretend none of this ever happened kind of thing. But again, the Cumbrian Dregpike here is there's accounts of the Cumbrian Dregpike. I can't explain it.
Has revealed such fish as the lead sickfish, able to grow to a length of 90 feet. Gigantic marine fish have long been present in literary fiction. Mocha Dick was an albino male sperm whale often seen in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Chile. After hunting him for almost 30 years, whalers finally killed Mocha in 1838. Inspired by the story, Herman Melville published his classic novel Moby.
Yeah, Moby Dick. We're all aware of that. Again, is another theory is we have just killed all these things off in time. Like that's kind of what the human beings do. We roam around the world killing everything. And again, if you look sort of back in sort of the 1800s, in Africa and the lions and crocodiles and all over the world for crocodile skin and all sorts of animals hunted for into extinction um, by the human beings, and these were animals that in mass we've hunted to extinction. So if there was just the odd one or two, then yeah, there's a good chance we've killed them all. And again, people in back in time seem to be very much of the nature of killing things for either sport or the title of saying that they killed it as well is another thing. Again, this giant whale of talk spoke of here, it will have been quite the prize to have vanquished this massive whale, you would imagine. And again, life seemed to be bigger in history, like the creatures seem to be bigger. Can they not be supported now? And the biggest we've got is the sort of the whales we see now. But this creature was apparently bigger than that. So a lot of connections as well to stuff we've already talked about. Creatures being bigger, history, and again, is the timeline all wrong here? And again, it's like I don't know. We haven't been. It's as if we've only been doing stuff for 300 or 400 years here. The way the technology's gone, and something happened maybe 400 years ago, and we started again, rewrite history, and that's what's wiped out the Romans and all these things. I don't know, but it's just a kind of feels as if that's more a better timeline. And then that would explain a lot of these sort of things 100, 200, 300 years ago, like the Cumbrian Dregpike, were left after the flood and left were abominations or whatever, and were left after the flood. Again, survived the flood because they were water-based creatures. But in the sort of last 300 to 400 years, we've killed them all off, and again, that's when a lot of this has gone down in the last 300 to 400 years. It seems, if you look at history, when we've started going across the globe and we've started killing all the animals. And so what were we doing before that? You know what I mean? And were we just recovering from a flood? And then once we'd recovered, people decided, do you know what I mean? We've got sort of settled again here. Now we get back to it, and that makes a bit more sense than and again this 1,000 years of medieval the Dark Ages where nothing happened. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But we have lots of reports in history of these big creatures or these cryptids, and they seem to be more prevalent in history for some reason, and not very much. Again, I've never heard of the Cumbrian Dregpike, but apparently it's roamed the Cumbrian lakes and fells here for over 100 years. I think there was in maybe more. I think it was a count in 1400s there and a count in the 1700s. So the hundreds of years apart here. But did the 1400s even happen really? Well, yeah, you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know. It's just the timeline seems very wrong here. It seems like we've added years. Where did we add these years? What were the fuck were we doing for all this time? And we weren't innovating or hunting or doing anything at all, recording or writing anything down. What the fuck were we doing? You know what I mean? So Moby Dick, again, written from apparently a historical tale of a massive whale that was murdered.
Dick, over 10 years later. Ernest Hemingway wrote the
Although it was probably, if it was of immense size, it showed it attacking ships there. If it was attacking ships, it would have been a bit of a menace, so you probably did want to kill it. But again, on all these sort of maps as well in history, there's loads of like depictions of sea monsters, and the reason they're on the maps in many times is so people do not go near the sea monster and get eaten. It was a bit of a warning on the map, don't go here. So yeah, there very much was, again, and creatures were bigger back in the day, so there very much probably was sea monsters and massive fish and massive sharks and the megalodon as another example. Everything seemed to be bigger in history, and again, these things would have been absolutely fucking catastrophic for ships. So killing them would have been necessary if you were going to be a seafaring race, I suppose, and that is what we've become. So there would have been probably monumental efforts to kill these things, so we could sail the seas without getting everything murdered and all the whatever we were transporting as well, and many times being sunk and taken by sea monsters. So I think that's very much a thing that happened, to be honest. But again, it's kind of like all the giant beasts of history of slightly being covered up. Seems to be the way of it, but again, there are all these maps depicting endless sea monsters of sorts.
Old Man and the Sea in 1951. The story of an old fisherman whose reputation hangs on the enormous marlin he has caught, only to have it eaten by sharks before he gets it back to shore, won Hemingway both a Pulitzer Prize and a Nobel Prize in literature. Tales of great fish will continue to fascinate and horrify people, as they have for countless millennia. In early July 1815, there was jubilation across Britain following the Duke of Wellington's victory over Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo. In Kirkby Lonsdale,
That's a bit of a weird one as well. I've the whole Napoleon thing, and where does that fit into the timeline? And something strange about the Napoleon thing is, again, I learned this lately off YouTube, but then the guy I know who's been living in the Falklands told me as well, which made me think of it again. Napoleon was banished to an island for like, apparently then he came back and had another war, but he was banished to an island near the Falklands for the war, banished, not put banished to an island near the Falklands, apparently. Not murdered or put in prison or anything at all. Banished to an island, which I just thought was very, very strange, to be honest. And again, sort of questioning history as we are. That's what's going on there. That's a bit weird. Banished to an island, which apparently he came back and started another war. I think he lost as well. Was another crack. So if we had just killed him or put him in prison, which was very common back then, people didn't mind murdering people back then. It was a very very common thing. Yeah, well, none of that would have happened. So why did you let that happen? And again, what's going on there? I don't know anything about that. It's something I've learned recently that Napoleon had the war, lost the war, but got banished to an island near the Falklands, apparently, or in the Falklands, to then come back and have another war. So was he just a tool of the elites or something? I don't know. Did he even exist? Is that real history? I don't know. All this is a time of like massive wars all over the world at the early 1800s, as if they were trying to kill everybody off and cover something up, possibly. I don't know. I don't know. This is sort of the theory, or parts of it. So, the Cumbrian Dregpike, we seem to have drifted off topic here from the Cumbrian Dregpike here. We'll be going back to the Dregpike. It looks like the Cumbrian Hills here. We'll play a bit more, we'll see where we are.
A group of farm workers were making their way to a celebration when one of their number fell from a horse cart while crossing the bridge. Before he could be helped, a large animal pulled him under the water and began dragging him down the River Loon until they were out of sight. Witnesses described a huge, scaly green fish with black horsehair trailing behind it. Human remains were found some weeks later, a few miles downstream. The site today is known as Devil's Bridge. Retreating from a failing marriage, world-renowned author Charles Dickens fled London to take a short tour of the lakes in 1857. In a letter to his 18-year-old mistress, Dickens recounted the story he'd been told about a dregpike supposed to inhabit Derwent Water. He considered adapting it into a short horror tale, but instead wrote a ghost story called The Bride's Chamber. This is Jane Boxall, a 24-year-old kitchen maid who worked at Derwent Water Hotel. In 1867, 10 years after Dickens had stayed there, she attempted to drown herself in Derwent Water, which has depths of up to 72 feet. The incident began one Saturday morning when, suspicious of Jane's behavior, a fellow servant followed her to the water's edge. He watched Jane walk into the lake fully clothed and enlisted the help of another man to swim out and pull her back to shore. As he did so, the head of an enormous pike emerged from the water and
It was the Dregpike.
headed towards the girl. The head was said to be covered with a long black horse's mane. Observers on the shore, as well as a nearby passenger ferry, watched with horror as the animal crushed Jane between its jaws and pulled her violently across the surface of the lake before disappearing beneath the waters.
She's been Dregpiked. She's absolutely been Dregpiked, that woman. There's no other explanation. There is absolutely no other explanation than she's been Dregpiked here in Cumbria. So we're gonna have to go and look for the Dregpike now. This is the mission. We must find the ancient Dregpike here, and its horsey mane.
The man managed to swim back to shore unharmed. The local populace agreed that no fish was large enough nor powerful enough to account for what they'd just seen. Parts of Jane's dress were found washed ashore a few days later, almost 2 miles away. A rumor spread amongst churchgoers that Jane Boxall had conjured up a devilfish from Satan himself. The following year, in 1868, the Reverend Cyril Oakley visited the site of the attack with the intention of practicing an exorcism. Despite being unable to swim, he nevertheless waded into the water in order to perform the ritual. Some witnesses say the priest merely lost his balance, while others claim a hairy Dregpike knocked him over. Whatever the case, although he was carried back to shore by rescuers, the Reverend Oakley never regained consciousness. 22 years later, human bones were recovered from Derwent Water, but Victorian science was not advanced enough to positively prove whether they once belonged to Jane Boxall. At nearly 6 square miles, Lake Windermere is the largest body of water in England. It was here in 1870.
It's fucked as well now. We've ruined Windermere. It's full of fucking oil and all sorts, and it's it's the most polluted lake in Cumbria. It's the most popular lake where all the tourists go. We've ruined that. So we've ruined Windermere.
72, that 3 children were rowing a small boat within sight of the shore near Black Hole Wood. What happened next was witnessed by a young couple in a nearby boat. A monster fish with long black hair upturned the children's boat and almost...
You've been dragpiked. You've absolutely been Cumbrian Dregpiked again here. So it's the only explanation yet again.
Almost immediately pulled the youngest boy under the water. The elder boy tried to protect his sister by shouting at the creature, but he was lifted high into the air and disappeared in an enormous splash.
This Dregpike has fucking decimated all the children here. Jesus Christ. The dreaded Dregpike. It's a good job this doesn't exist now. I wouldn't go to the fucking lakes. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to the lakes if the fucking Dregpike's on the scene here. Luckily, we have no reports in modern times of the Dregpike, so it makes you wonder, do you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck's going on here? But multiple reports of the Cumbrian Dregpike, a horse, fish, pike, massive, eats people, kills them, drags them to the doom here. Exorcisms performed, the works here. Devil's Bridge, you name it. Madness again, just madness. I can't stress. As you can hear, you've watched and heard it all. If you got this far, madness.
The surviving child was still clinging on to the upturned boat as the witnesses were rowing to save her, when the animal once again rose out of the water, bit down on the girl's legs, and pulled her down into the lake. It was seen again briefly some
Absolutely takes no prisoners. The Dregpike there, 3 children gone, 3 children of the Wigton's family, on a tour of the lakes and having their quarters at High Strott Park, were tragically lost Friday when their rowing boat was upturned by what is believed to have been a Dregpike. This is what I mean. This has been like reported that the Dregpike's a known thing back then. The people are aware what a Dregpike is and that it existed and killed people. And this is kind of a report. It happened in the afternoon when the children were aged 6, 8 and 11 were enjoying a short outing under Black Hole and Windermere Lake. So madness, but madness that apparently happened in history here, the Dregpike, the Cumbrian Dregpike. So, if it's an actual creature, things get old and die if it doesn't mate with something, obviously. But this is kind of saying like a cryptid, which means it's not really real. It's more like a spirity kind of entity is kind of what I make of like a cryptid thing. But I don't know. I just thought it was very interesting. It was madness, obviously. And yeah, the Cumbrian Dregpike. I'll play the end of it. We've got more to hear here. There is more of the Dregpike.
distance away before vanishing for good. No bodies were ever found. During September of 1886, work had begun at Thirlmere to transform the natural lake into a reservoir, supplying water to the city of Manchester.
Yeah, now us as well. We all get our water from Thirlmere. We used to get it from other lakes, but they cut us off from that and they put us on Thirlmere with Manchester. So if there's ever a drought, we all have no water instead of just half of us. So yeah, Thirlmere, wankers.
Manchester. Thousands of work and navvies were digging an aqueduct when a wooden platform gave way and a dozen men fell from a height into the water. As they were being rescued, two enormous green fish appeared and began pulling the men underwater. Dozens of witnesses said the creatures looked like large, hairy pike. Those men who survived had huge bite marks, and of the 3 bodies that were eventually recovered, all showed signs of being partially eaten.
It was the Dregpike. Here, where's this? Looks like it's on a rock here. Maybe we'll go and try and find this. The Dregpike strikes again. Thirlmale Reservoir there. Yeah, again, that's the tale is Thirlmere is a reservoir. It was made into a reservoir for Manchester. All this is factual. We have now been put on there. That's new information. This video's 3 years old. Manchester, in memory, our fallen 12th September 1886. Yeah, so just people died.
Is this a photograph of a Dregpike?
The Dregpike, hold on. Jesus Christ, here. We can't see. Is that it on the floor? It's quite a big fish, to be honest. I'm not seeing that. We've got legs. It's hard to decipher. It's very hard to decipher what we're seeing. There's a guy bent over here. Is that a horse? That 2 horses, possibly? Another guy here. This guy's in the background. A big fish. Just looks like a big fish, to be honest. We don't know if that's the Dregpike.
In February of 1895, temperatures fell to record lows across Britain, and Lake Windermere froze over. Ice skating and even ice yachting were enjoyed by thousands of people along the entire length of.
Yeah, we don't seem to get winters as like this anymore either. That's another thing. Apparently the Thames froze once. It used to be colder in history. So the planet's climate has definitely changed. We don't get winters like this in Britain anymore. It's cold, but it's not fucking. We don't have Windermere freezing and the Thames freezing here. I mean, yeah, this is just we don't. This doesn't happen now.
The lake. When the thaw began, a huge rotting corpse emerged from the frozen water. Some said the scales on the remains proved it was a giant catfish, while the black hair
Looks a bit like a catfish, but it's massive eyes, like Christ.
across the creature's spine convinced others it was a Dregpike. Hotels and shops had been enjoying a brisk trade with the unusual amount of tourists and complained that the stink would be bad for business. Within a day of being discovered, the decomposing body was smashed out of the ice and buried in a lime-filled pit. Strands of long black hair.
A line-filled pit. Where's this pit? We need to find this pit and re-dig it up. But fucking Jesus Christ here. I could have been doing this, do you know what I mean? Been sitting around doing fuck all for years. And the fucking Dregpike's been on the scene here. An actual Dregpike in my area. I could have been looking for this. I could have been looking for this. Jesus Christ. Give me some more information here.
Still attached to some organic material, were removed beforehand and taken to London for scientific evaluation. Contemporary newspapers reported that the hair was composed of tiny fish scales, but the original study became lost.
Yeah, some architecture we've managed to fucking build back in the day. Hold on.
Contemporary newspapers reported that the hair was composed of tiny fish scales.
Look at this. Look at this. Knocking up like Romanesque buildings all over the world, in America, in England, in fucking Rome, you name it. Why are we all following this architecture? Like, there's something in that as well for me in history. Like again, the Bank of England's in this style, the Federal Reserve's in this style. Like, what's with this style and that time? Why were we building Roman style in England and America? It's something's gone on here. You know what I mean? something's gone on. There's a reason for why we were building these buildings, and again, we don't build them anymore. So what was the why were we building these like 200 years ago?
Scales, but the original study became lost in the British Museum's archives. Whilst researching this film, that study was found, and we present it here for the first time in 70 years.
Well, here we go.
The findings do indeed show that the black, hair-like strands actually were from the fish family. However, the sample itself is missing, so the results cannot be verified. The last incident attributed to a Dregpike happened in 1920, when foxhounds were injured and
1920, so 105 years ago, the last sighting of the Dregpike here. And it's a long time, to be honest. We're looking for the Dregpike. Seems to have could be long gone here. Well, we could find the Dregpike. We could find the Dregpike.
drowned in the River Emont, which feeds into Ullswater. A hunt had resulted in the dogs following a stag into the river as it tried to make the far bank. But while the huntsmen watched, one by one, their hounds were pulled under the surface by an unseen animal. As the river flowed red, the stag got away. The huntsmen's horses panicked as an enormous green fish-like creature emerged from the water and even gave chase for a short distance.
It was the Dregpike. It was the fucking Dregpike.
Which is when it is claimed this photograph was hurriedly taken.
Oh, what the fuck's that? Jesus Christ. What the hell is it? It looks like a furry fish with legs, to be fair. Like, is that the Dregpike? I wouldn't fancy running into that on the fells of Cumbria. Although, you go to a certain area. I went with my ex years and years ago. It's near Bassenthwaite Lake over the hills and the trees, and we were in this area, and we passed multiple carcasses of sheep that had been murdered. There was something roaming that area, murdering sheep indiscriminately, it would seem. I mean, it could have been a wolf or something. I don't think we've got wolves now, to be honest. A fox or something. I don't know. But there was literally there's fucking dead sheep carcasses for man and boy up there. I was jokingly saying there was the beast of the a beast of the area, but could it have been the Dregpike? The dreaded Dregpike, and here it is. Jesus Christ, look at this thing. You wouldn't want to run into that. Looks like it's got sharp teeth. It looks like a bird, but furry with legs, but swims. Who knows what the fuck this is? It's the Dregpike. I mean, these men are getting the fuck out of there. This stone wall ain't stopping shit. We're going, boy, here. The fucking Dregpike's on the scene. Jesus Christ, here, look at that. So, yeah, the Dregpike.
Before the hunting party could regroup, the animal had retreated back into the water and was last seen disappearing down the river, its black mane trailing behind it. 9 dogs were lost.
The Dregpike.
In 1905, author Beatrix Potter used royalties from her delightful children's books to buy a farm in the Lake District. Potter was involved in all aspects of rural life, and having heard about the Dregpike, painted an illustration for a proposed book. A mock-up was produced, but her publisher felt the move would damage her wholesome reputation, and the project was abandoned. In the 1930s, public attention shifted north to a different type of lake monster.
Yes, the Loch Ness was born in Loch Ness in Scotland, as we know. So that's I'm going to leave it there, to be honest. The Dregpike, the Cumbrian Dregpike, it was news to me. I'll look out for the Dregpike on my travels and see if we can find the beast. I'll leave it there. Peace.